Welcome to another episode of Kickphase, the podcast. I'm Kemp,
I'm Matt.
and I have a question for you.
Hmm.
I want to know, what was the last project you worked on that made you feel creatively fulfilled?
Creatively fulfilled. I think Mixed Bag was the last project that I felt creatively fulfilled.
That was a short film?
That was a short film.
What about that project made you feel creatively fulfilled?
I think I'm involved in all of our projects, but I guess like being that I wrote it, I directed it, I edited it, like there was like not a point in time where I was just like, I don't know, I had all the creative seats in that project. It was really cool. I don't know. It was a story that came from me. It was pretty dope just to have like the whole story was about an actor who, I mean, he wasn't getting any roles at all, and he was losing confidence in himself, and he goes to a cafe where he meets all his past roles that try to get him back into the confidence of acting again. And at that time, I was kind of going through the same thing where I just felt like I was losing confidence in filmmaking. So I like making that story that was so kind of close to what was going on with me, and seeing like that other people liked it too, just kind of like fulfilled that gap that I was just like I got to watch it and I was like, this is good.
Why were you losing confidence in filmmaking?
Maybe not a filmmaker, more so like, are my ideas good or not? It's been so long since I wrote an idea of my own, and also the last project that I directed, I did not like at all. So it was just like, that also made me lose confidence in that part of it. So it was just really cool to be at the helm of the whole thing and like have that creative control. I think was really nice.
When was that?
That was the summer. What was it? 2020? 2020?
So, short film in 2020
Yep.
made you feel creatively fulfilled.
Yes.
It's 2022. How many
Yeah.
projects have you done since that one?
Probably 6. That's what I'm
6 projects.
Yeah. It might be more than 6. A lot of projects have definitely passed.
6 or maybe more projects in the bag. Why were none of those creatively fulfilling?
Diner 57 was also a creative fulfilling one. I completely left that out of my mind. That was like because it had to deal with animation, and I've always wanted to do animation or producing something with animation and like voice acting. So that was like really fun. It was a musical about condiments that come alive at a diner that try to stop a burglary. And I thought that was a pretty cool story.
What about the other 5?
They felt really rushed. Like I never really got to go in depth. Like we talk about with this feature that we want to do, just like how far we're going into the story, like and just planning it out and writing it. It's truly just great to see all these notes just written down, to see how in depth we're going with the story. And not all those other projects did that. We definitely tried to do that with other blocks, and we tried to plan early, but then everything just kind of started rushing together. I still think I will like love Out of the Blocks because it did teach me a lot. However, I don't think I was truly like creatively fulfilled in that moment. We're not done with the project, so, but it's just like this is already getting me there because we're doing so much planning with it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So you have been creatively fulfilled
Twice
since Mixed Bag.
Yeah, I definitely have. I'm not even saying that all those other films projects weren't special to me. They were. It's just they're not on the same level as like Mixed Bag or anything like that, just because of like the seat that I was in and how much free time I had just to like play with a project. Like that's like truly what I got to do, is I got to play. So it's like what better can you ask for? I mean, like, what's the last time that you felt you were creatively fulfilled with a project?
I learned a lot from Out of the Blocks.
Yeah.
While it was going on, it was a blast. It was a great time. But I felt I outgrew the story. Even while we were shooting it.
While we were
like
shooting it?
mid-shoot, I felt like I outgrew the story.
So you got a growth spurt in the middle of a shooting. You just...
Pretty much.
Okay.
And I felt like going through it, I was like, I don't know. Like that's how I felt.
Dang.
I felt that way about the story.
What put you in that place that you knew you outgrew the story?
I don't think it was that well developed in the first place, so it was very easy to outgrow.
Yeah.
I just don't think it was the greatest starting block.
Is it because of like the way TV is now, or just because of like who you are now as a writer?
Both.
Okay.
Like I think it would be well received. I do.
Right.
And I do think, like, let's say if it was something that got picked up and we did jump into a TV series or we did have funding and all that, I would 100% probably put more into it and work it to where it needed to be.
Right. I got
So
you.
it's not like it would always be that way.
Right.
But I do think that first pilot episode, was it good? Yeah. Was it great?
Nah. Yeah. There you go. What would you change to make it better? Like, what is it missing? Do you feel like you even push boundaries in the way that we want to do with Kickphase, where we're pushing the boundaries of like audio and visuals, where we're pushing film to like to another level?
I don't know if I necessarily care about pushing boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like pushing boundaries is a trend. It's not something I need to hop on.
I got you.
You're losing something when you do that. I don't know what it is. Like, I feel like you're kind of not developing an identity.
Mm.
I mean, an identity is based in something, but I feel like your identity is to always break something.
Okay.
So is pushing the boundary really an identity, or is it running from an identity?
That's actually pretty good. I think it may be.
There's like a whole like short film community that just makes weird stuff.
Right.
Like they don't care about story or nothing. They just care about being experimental and just making weird looking films and this, that, and the other.
Like, are you saying it just gets too artsy fartsy to the point that it's like I don't even get the point anymore?
Yeah, I do feel like some people are too focused on chasing
The new thing, I guess.
the urge to be unique or different. Or stand out, or like be an artist, or like.
Well, hold on. Let me ask you this: what if it's just like each film they do is just to tell a story in a new form that's just like unique to that story? The uniqueness helps push the story. Like it's not the making a story just for it to be unique.
That's what they're doing. That's dope. Do it.
Yeah.
But that's not what I see.
Okay. Well,
I mean, I see it in some films. Like I said, this isn't every film. I'm talking about a very small select group.
no, I got you.
I'm not bashing anybody who does this.
Right.
Because I've still seen some stuff and I'm like, yo, that's dope. I still see the artistry and I still see like just the work and passion behind some of it.
Right.
But for the most part, I know I am never going into anything with the intent of being groundbreaking.
Yeah.
I just realized that's not who I am as an artist.
Right.
Like, I'm not saying, I want to clear it up. I'm not saying there is nothing wrong with that.
Right.
So if you sit here and say, I want to make animated films that just like Spider-Verse, they went into that trying to be groundbreaking.
Right.
And it was dope and it was needed. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being groundbreaking. Yeah. That's solely my individual perspective of the type of art I am probably going to produce.
Right.
I want to know your mindset. Like when you're writing something or when you're making certain things, is your viewpoint to be, this has to be out of the box, this has to shake the industry, it has to be something new.
Right.
Oh, I want to James Cameron this and go get in a submarine underwater. Oh, I'm Top Gun.
Yeah.
Getting real jets. And because, like I said, there's nothing wrong with being groundbreaking because that stuff is dope.
Yeah. For the most part, a lot of what comes to mind is I do want my stories to be new, to be different. I do want it to have some groundbreaking element to it. Yeah. I want it to tell, but not to the point where it was just like it was only about groundbreaking. Like at the end of the day, I still want to make a good story. If there's a groundbreaking element I want to my story, whatever it is, like truly, I just want it to be like this element is only for this story.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like,
I get that.
Yeah. You mentioned Spider-Verse, and I really love what Spider-Verse did. And you did say like it was like they were solely being meant to be groundbreaking. I look at it actually a little bit different. Yeah, they were being groundbreaking. However, I do like the fact that it was for their story. And I guess that's how I want to tell my stories. So it's like, I guess it's like a half and half, but maybe it does.
Because
Yeah.
I do think those elements only worked in that story.
Yeah.
However, I highly doubt they went into that and said, let's solely do this because it tells the story the way it needs to be told. So
Sure.
my mindset is you had to have gone into it trying to be
Groundbreaking.
it to an extent. You had to go into it trying to be different.
I got you.
It does begin in, hey, what's the best way to tell this story?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I guess I just truly am, I think in every sense of the word, I feel like I'm an indie filmmaker.
Right.
And I guess that's just what I'm coming to terms with.
I got you.
I'm not like a Hollywood big type of budget type crazy filmmaker. I feel like you are.
I got you. That makes sense.
I don't mean that in a negative way.
Yeah. No, I know.
Would you agree with me or you disagree with me?
I would agree with you.
I think
on
we're
that.
different in the sense of like I'm an indie filmmaker and you're more like that industry type filmmaker.
I got you.
I
I see your point there.
I say this to say Kickphase is not to me about pushing boundaries. I would completely remove that from a mission statement if it's somewhere.
Right.
I don't believe that. When we talk about what we want to do with filmmaking, or when I talk about what I want to do with filmmaking, I'm not gonna put any words in your mouth.
Right.
When I talk about what I want to do with filmmaking, it's all about telling stories that haven't been told before and presenting perspectives that haven't been told before. I don't really think that's pushing a boundary just because it hasn't been told. Like, yes, we live in a society where the stories that resonate with me are stories, black stories. Yes, they haven't had a platform, and I still don't think they have a platform today.
Right.
So I think by me telling them, people are going to be like, oh, wow, he's trying to push the boundary. But I don't view it that way. I don't feel like it's anything about it that's boundary pushing, other than the boundary of,
this story hasn't been told before.
I guess, the westernized white kind of narrative that like has been placed on like, I guess, our culture and who we are as a people, you know?
Would you say you see it as like making a new field? Like basically you're telling these stories that have never gotten any light before.
But is that pushing a boundary?
I would feel like someone would call that pushing a boundary.
I mean, they can, but I'm saying I don't. I don't think that's pushing a boundary.
I guess if you look at it like, you say it's like the westernization of, what did you say? You said the westernization of what? Whiteness over our culture?
So there are narratives that have been sold to us about what blackness is.
I got you.
I know that's not what blackness is. So if I make a film that's just showing what I believe blackness is,
right,
or my interpretation of blackness, people could be like, oh, he's pushing the boundary because this is what we believe blackness, or have believed blackness is, because this is what the world has led us to believe.
Right.
Like, yeah, it's going against cultural norms and things like that, but
Right.
they're cultural norms to me that are completely fake. Like, it's like, I don't...
Yeah, I see what you mean.
I'm not putting this just on racism, but racism,
right,
and just the view people have of what blackness is and stuff like that, to me, it's just absurd.
Okay.
Like, there's nothing logical about it to me. And because I don't view it as a logical thing, nothing about it is like pushing a boundary to me, because it's just, I feel like something has to be based in some sort of logic for me to push it. I don't know if that makes sense.
Wait, why does it have to be based in logic to push it? Art has no logic to it, but people feel like they're pushing the boundary of art. Or okay. Parameters.
But I'm just telling normal stories. That's what I'm saying.
I got you.
It's like there's nothing weird about my stories.
I know what you
literally
mean.
It's just a different perspective. It's
Yes.
not even like weird. It's not out there. It's probably using every cinematic rule in the book. I don't think it's out of the box.
I got you. I got you. I see what you're
I do
saying.
think there's this, like I said, there's this fake box that has been created
Right.
of this false narrative, but I don't know. I just exist outside that box now, so I'm just like I
He's
don't.
outside the box. He said, I'm thinking outside the box. Not even
So
thinking outside the box, physically outside the box. Okay. I see what you mean.
so it's just like to me, it's nothing boundary pushing
Right.
about it.
Okay. You're just telling a story from your perspective. Like you
Yeah,
said. Yeah.
that's never been my goal.
I know. I know what you
And
mean.
I do understand that some of my stuff can come off weird and out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think what I want to do is still going to shape the culture, and it's
Right.
still going to can shape the landscape of the world. And do I want to influence change or just show my people who they are and what they can be and the beauty behind them? Yes.
Even though you don't want to have the focus of that, I think regardless, I think whatever films you make will be, people will describe them as this. And even though that's not your intention,
No, I
or you're,
know.
or
I
you're
know
not
for
your,
a fact they'll describe it as
Yeah.
that. That's what I'm saying. Is
Yeah.
people are going to look at it and be like,
yeah,
oh, you're trying to do that. Oh, you're pushing this. Oh, it's groundbreaking in this way.
Right.
Oh, you're breaking boundaries. I can look at stuff clear as day
right,
and be like, your goal is to hit this narrative, or your goal is to hit this message, or
right,
push this idea. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
yeah,
I do think it's needed. However, I just realized as a filmmaker, that's not who I am. There's enough people doing it. I don't need to do it. So I'm just going to tell the good stories I want to tell. And I know that they're also going to push the same messages, touch the same people in the same way, because it's so ingrained in who I am that anything I create is going to do that in excellence without me trying. It's just because that's just who I am.
That does make sense.
I was talking with another filmmaker recently who asked me to DP a project.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things I told him was I've been very hesitant about the projects I've accepted lately. And like, because I mean, it's so much time and so much effort and just so much energy. And I don't know, I just got to a place where I want to tell stories that like resonate with me and that I'm proud of and that I feel creatively fulfilled by.
Right.
And this was like a respectful conversation. Like I think we're both mature to the point where we can talk about stuff like this and nobody's taking offense or anything. Like I can be like, this story doesn't resonate with me. This is why I don't agree with this. You don't agree with that. You know, we have these conversations.
Oh, sure.
But one of the things was I felt that they were too focused on the changing the world part and not just telling a good story. And like I said, I just feel like when two is a part of you,
Right.
you can do number one, and like I said, naturally two is just going to occur.
Right.
And I just feel like a lot of filmmakers get so caught up on being the latter that
It just kind
they
of
lose the first half of that.
Right.
I'm not out here trying to do anything groundbreaking. It's just
Yeah. No, that's a good way of looking at it. Because I guess that's where a lot of people get lost. Is like it's supposed to be this big, wonderful, changing thing, and when you lose the story, it's like, what is it? It doesn't change anything because it has no impact on anybody. Let me ask you this really quick. So, is this new? A new realization that you made, or something that you've always just had?
it's not necessarily new, but I think like my views and ideas are always slowly expanding and growing.
Right.
I think it's always been there. It's like I'm
Form.
grasping it more and like understanding more, and like the extent of it is growing.
Right. Okay.
However, I think I always knew I didn't want to be groundbreaking.
Gotcha.
It was just like I know I want to make a film that's not present in the world currently. But it wasn't with the intent of like me trying to like
be new or unique, right?
I just knew I needed to see that.
Okay.
And I knew that I needed like my kids to see it. And I just knew that like I needed my community to see it. Like I know who I'm around, and I know like growing up, I know if all my friends saw the film I'm about to make,
Right.
that we would all be in just crazy different places in our life right now if we just saw that film once. Not saying we're any of us are in bad places, but
Right.
it's just like I just know how much that would just change who we are as a people. I know I'm talking about like pro black stuff, but this is like for anybody.
Right.
Like just in general. Yes, there's like these black ideas that I think would just completely change the black people I know in my life.
Right.
However, there's some messages in there that I know would completely change anybody I know in my life. So it's just, I don't know, I just need to present these ideas and stories. It doesn't have to be, I don't know, this groundbreaking way. Like in a sense, I think just the way I think and view the world,
Right.
people would look at as boundary breaking. But I don't know. To me, it's not. It's just like, it's simple.
Right. Right.
The market is saturated with so many just weird and crazy and just out there and just different stories by like these majority of like, let's just say white male filmmakers, right?
Right.
Just when you look at just the expanse of the stories and films they've made, the only reason they're able to do this, they don't have the obligation, responsibility, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, they don't have to think about those things.
Right.
They don't have to consider them. They're just free to create. I feel like we're putting ourselves in a box that we are unable to tell the extent of the stories we can tell because we're trapping ourselves behind this moral obligation that would still be filled if we just told stories. We feel like there's only one way to fulfill that moral imperative, you know?
Because it's like, I mean, with our culture, so many people do have the responsibility of carrying, like, when you're black, you have to carry a lot of people on your back.
Yeah.
When you're
And
like
I
a
mean,
significant figure,
I
you're
get
telling
it too.
stories.
Like I get where it comes from. So I'm
Yeah.
not bashing anybody who has this mindset because I completely understand why we have it and where it comes from.
Exactly. That's interesting. I don't know. I was thinking about that the other day, just about like, basically you're morally obligated to like do these things for the black culture, or depending on wherever you come from. There are things that you have to do. Like for instance, even in this story, this guy, he has an ex-girlfriend and a girlfriend. Like you even said, we got to make sure that we just don't tell the story of he's moving on from a light-skinned woman to a dark-skinned woman, or a dark-skinned woman to a light-skinned woman, because it's just like, I mean, that's what happens in our culture right now, and we don't want to tell that story.
That we made a conscious decision of like, oh, who we cast for this?
Yeah.
Solely because we understand there's certain
connotations
behind
skin,
just
color.
Yeah, colorism and all that stuff. We wanted to make sure we weren't pouring into that narrative because we don't believe it.
Exactly.
And we understand that people, even if that's not our intent, are going to grab onto it.
Right.
Because so many films do have that message.
Right.
So it's like we know we have to
combat it.
Yeah. Exactly. I do think there's a responsibility you owe to certain things and how you portray certain things, because you have to understand how things are going to be perceived.
Right. What point do you not let that, though?
I think there's consequences to everything, and a lot of us like to think about intention over consequence. Majority of the time, consequences way more than intention. Like, you have to understand where you are and where you're delivering, and you can't just do something and say, oh, that wasn't my intent, but it's destroying things. Like, that's not right. You gotta reevaluate, right?
Right.
However, I don't think you're meant to tell everybody's story, nor do I think every story is for you.
I got you.
Like, am I gonna tell stories with black females in them? 100%.
Right.
Will I probably tell a story with a black female lead? Probably at some point in my life, you know? Yeah. But it's just like, I also understand that
we're not built for that.
I can't always tell that story. I know a black woman needs to tell a black woman's story at the same time. I still need to give room for that. Yes, I have a responsibility to certain things, but at the same time, I don't know. Yeah. I think there's a respect you have to carry. And a just awareness, but it's not always your job to tell somebody's story.
I got you. I guess it was just like that thought process that was coming through from that was just the fact that you're saying, as if we just free ourselves up just a little bit, are you saying that there still is a moral obligation? It's just that it doesn't have to come from a place of, I'm just coming from my moral obligation, and that's all it is.
There is, but
bounded by this responsibility. I'm not thinking of the story anymore. I'm only thinking of being groundbreaking now.
we're not throwing all moral obligation to the wind either, because we're
Yeah.
taking into account things like that.
Right.
This story is not about combating colorism. That's not what the story is about. However, it's doing it just by telling great stories. I feel like we're combating so much,
Right.
and people don't even realize it.
I got you.
It's like you don't understand that you making a film about colorism. And like I said, I'm not bashing this because I think it's needed. And I think there's some people who just need it in their face and like straight up like, yo, like let's make this clear as possible for you.
Yeah.
I think both are needed.
Right.
However, I feel like the black culture feels like that's all they can do.
I got you.
I feel like it's like everyone feels this moral obligation that I have to do that.
Right.
You don't understand how just making a film and having like what we just said in mind,
Right.
for all we know, that could literally shift people's views on their skin color for generations and generations and generations to come. Like, we're combating that just by telling a story that, as I said in episode 1 of Kickphase the podcast, is a cinematic masterpiece. So there's this saying, and everyone says it's their saying, but it's literally said with everybody. So no, truly, every time I hear it, like someone says, there's this saying in the way you call it community, and then they say it, but I've heard it in every community. So once you met one child with autism, you've met one child with autism. Once you met one trans person, you've met one trans person. Once you've met so forth.
Never heard that saying.
You haven't? All right, so I'll just use it toward black people right now. Like I said, I think it holds true to who we are as people too. That yes, we have shared experiences, and yes, we have shared things that tie us all together.
Right.
Whether that's culture, skin color, identity, just different things based in our identity. Once you know one black person, you know one black person. Black people are different. We're so different. We're so caught up with this idea of what is blackness and what it means to be black. I think we're so caught on the shared experience that we've lost the individual experience. And I just believe if you share the individual experience, the shared experience is there as well.
Right.
Like, I don't think you need to necessarily be focused on the shared experience always, because doing the individual, there's no way for the shared experience not to shine through.
Yeah. Okay.
So, for instance, me and my sister were talking about going to work after something happens. Or like, so we see someone black get gunned down on the street by law enforcement. Or you see something like the Buffalo shooting and you have to go to work the next day. And for the most part act like it's not affecting you, or it didn't happen. At least if you work in a community that isn't, I guess, a minority community. You go to work, you know, your coworker's gonna walk up, how you doing, Matt? Like nothing happened. And like you're inside, you feel completely devastated and broken and ripped to shreds. And you just have to go throughout your day like that's not the case.
Right.
So I think telling a story where you're watching, I don't want to say someone normal, but like, because obviously you don't watch stories of normal people per se, or movies, but just watching kind of this person go through something that's extraordinary, or just have an extraordinary life, or some extraordinary moment, or some heartbreaking moment, or something happening in this person's life, and you're seeing that happen in the background, and you're seeing them struggle with that and hold that in, or like, I don't know, like seeing that stuff in the background still speaks to the shared experience, and I think can sometimes hold more weight than just making a movie of, let's just make a white supremacist movie just to drive home the point.
I got you.
And like I said, it's needed. So I'm going to keep saying that. I'm not bashing that it shouldn't be made.
Right.
However,
that this is also needed, though.
Yeah, because that's the only light we've seen ourselves in.
Right.
You know, like there's so many individuals and there's so many stories and there's so
Yeah.
like let's focus on that. I mean, we've seen the white individual,
Right.
and
Yeah, we all.
we've seen so much of it, and we've seen so many stories and just like so much creativity and so much just
It seems
different
cool.
worlds and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, it's because they don't have that weight.
Yeah, that's true. And the funny thing about that is, even though it's a white story, there still is somewhat of a shared experience in that to where people can still relate.
Yeah, you can still watch these movies and be like,
I
well,
relate to that.
that was very white of them. So they can still watch our movie and be like,
That was very black of him.
man, these niggas.
Oh my god.
Niggas out here wild. So that's where I stand on it.
Yeah, you do need to tell your own story so that it can be hit by everyone. Because you never honestly know what niche or untapped community you may hit by just telling your own story. I mean, we were talking about this before. I think we were talking about Atlanta, but like how there is individuality in blackness and just like
And people come for that show, right? I really do love that show. And I think people watch it and they tear Donald Glover a new one for his depiction of the black experience and what he's gone through and just identity issues, this, that, and the other. What I think black people need to understand is there's no one definition of blackness.
right.
That is a definition of blackness. What he's putting on television is a definition of blackness.
Yeah.
But this is the issue. Are multiple definitions of what blackness is, since they're not being told other than in the shared experience. The second you see a definition of blackness that's outside the shared experience, the conversation becomes, but that's not the shared experience. You over here speaking to this, and that's not even true for these people, and this, that, and the other. And like I said, there's a respect you have to those other people, but there's so many different levels of black and layers in just parts of what blackness is. Stop bashing this man for showing one aspect of black.
Yeah. What it's like to be black.
Not to go too off track. We are in a very woke society now. I think a lot of white allies, their idea of what it is to be woke and what it is to be for a black community, their views are also on this one definition of blackness.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like you're an ally for this idea of blackness that's being presented to you by all these shared experiences. However, that once again the individual in it is kind of diminished.
Right.
And I think because of that, you understand a facet of blackness, but you never can understand a full thing. But that's a different conversation in itself.
I was about to go more off track. I just had a quick question because it's like you keep bringing up definition of blackness.
Yeah.
Do you think the fact that we have a definition kind of hurts the community already? I mean, there's a common definition of blackness, but do you think that there has to be a definition?
I don't think there is one definition.
No, there isn't one definition, but there's one definition that's like been portrayed.
Yeah. I would like to start this off by saying I am also an individual. And by that I mean I don't have the definition of blackness in full. I have the definition of what it means for me to be black.
Right.
And I do have a shared experience, so I can also speak on that shared experience to an extent. However, I can never fully sit here and define what blackness is.
Right.
Like I said, it's different for so many black people.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want anyone listening to this to be like, oh, I feel completely enlightened and woke or anything after listening to this conversation. Because who knows? I don't know, right? It's like it's so complex. It's not this, single thing. And I don't want anyone listening to this to be like, oh, this dude is trying to tell us how to be black. I really ain't.
Yeah.
Blackness to me is solely based in racism right now.
Yeah.
Which is why I believe you have to rise above it. Like I said, it's weird because I love it. and I love blackness, and I love what it's made us, and I love like African Americans. Like, y'all are survivors. You are
Yep.
literally built from literally making the best from
The worst
not
situation.
the worst situations from nothing. Like, it's y'all are like phoenixes. It's like, it's
Yeah.
literally is the most beautiful thing ever to me, and I love the culture. At the same time, to truly embrace like who you are in a perfect world, you have to rise above it. So there's this artist. His name is Damon Davis, I believe, and he does a lot of different things. He's done some documentary filmmaking, some photography, some just a bunch of different types of mediums of art. And I was reading like these excerpts from this interview he did, and one of the things he said, I'm going to quote him. He said, "Work like this is absolutely about creating new narratives and origin stories, both to correct the purposeful lack of representation, but also to outright ignore the Western narrative and create new ones. These new narratives expunge past dominant narratives about blackness and create an altogether new definition for what black is and can be."
Dang, that's good.
So yeah, I think our definition of blackness and who we are has been defined a lot by, like, we're still existing in a world that hasn't allowed us to be ourselves.
Right.
So even though we're breaking down these barriers and these walls, it's like we're still behaving in a way that a world we weren't allowed to like exist in created. So at what point are we truly being ourselves?
Yeah.
And what point is like that outside influence still there? I feel like there's so many like man-made constructs behind all this stuff that it's
Right.
like, at the end of the day, what really is it? I can't answer that.
I got you.
But I also feel like that's why we need
Individual perspectives.
more, yeah, just like that's why we need this in film. That's
Right.
why we need this in storytelling. That's why we need more than just that shared experience. I feel like it's become a cage of sorts.
That's actually very
But I
true.
don't know. Like I said, I'm not trying to speak on this solely, and like,
Yeah.
I'm just a single person. So
Right.
the truth is, I could come back on this podcast a year from now. We could have the same conversation.
It'd be totally
And
different.
I may view it completely different. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows? I may get bashed for things I've said on this podcast. I don't know. I don't know. I'm sure they don't. But these are the thoughts going through my head right now. And this is like, it is going to influence and impact my storytelling.
Definitely something that everybody's figuring out. And like you said, we do need those individual perspectives to like trying to come from a place of not what it is, but what we could be. Growing that definition because of the fact that the more we allow ourselves to imagine or just tell our own perspective, whatever way that is, I think it could definitely lead us to a different place and probably a more healthy place, I would think.
We definitely went on a crazy tangent there. But regardless, dope conversation indeed.
Yeah. How did we get on this track anyway?
How did we get on this? You asked me something. I started by simply saying Kickphase isn't groundbreaking, but I don't know how I got there.
It was because I was saying, what do you think Out of the Blocks needed changed for you to?
Oh, I was
feel
pretty
creative?
much saying it didn't need to be it didn't need to be groundbreaking or anything. It just needed to be a good story. Yeah, because honestly, I don't remember what I was trying to say, but I'm going to say this is what I was trying to say. Maybe I'll re-listen to this podcast after and be like, oh, that's not where I was going with that thought.
Oh, okay.
But where I think I was going with that thought, I simply said all that to say Out of the Blocks was just poorly written. It wasn't a great story. And like, it was good. Like, there's moments, and I can still picture like those moments in it where I'm like, yo, that would be so good, or that would make someone cry, or that would be feel good. Even then, I just don't think where it was at was like, I don't know, it just needed work.
You dodged this question too. What what film did you feel like was creatively fulfilling for you? We know Out of the Blocks wasn't, but you have not mentioned one.
Street Life is creatively fulfilling for me.
Okay. Why? Why? And also, let me ask you this. Do you think your story, being everything that you just said, just about how by you telling great story or good stories, you will be able to like change the culture.
One, the truth is, Out of the Blocks really wasn't creatively fulfilling, probably for one reason. It's not complete.
Yeah.
No, I'm not even saying like it was not finished being edited.
No, yeah, I know what you mean.
I'm saying it's one episode of an entire story, so it's an
Exactly.
incomplete story.
Yeah.
I think if we would have just made a short film called Out of the Blocks, I would be creatively filled because there would be a period at the end of the story.
Right.
I hate that it would always be an incomplete story.
I got
even
you.
once it's done being edited. Streetlights was a complete story.
Right.
So I think I can be creatively fulfilled. I can move on. And even if it wasn't what I wanted it to be,
Right.
yeah, I can look back at it and be like, I hate this, or I don't like that, or that's not really what I wanted to go for. Or there were things I wanted to express then that I didn't know how to express because I didn't understand filmmaking or just storytelling in the way I do now. Or just even like just the visual language of how to use a camera or how to use certain edits or music, or like there were things I was still learning.
Right.
So obviously like I could tell that story way more successfully, I feel like now. I can still look at it as a whole creative piece. It's finished, it's completed.
Right.
Where I was when I made it, it reflects that. And I think it's a beautiful piece of work.
Got you.
So it was creatively fulfilling.
Right.
To answer your other question, if it would be world changing, I think I can say it will be world changing solely because it changed who I am. And I know for a fact that it changed other people who were involved with it. And they're going to continue to go out and do world changing things. And that was a step in their journey. But saying that, I don't know if Streetlights will ever get the platform.
Right.
To even be in that conversation.
I mean, maybe if you like it, once you make a good feature and people are like, let's look back at Kemp's journey to see the evolution. Maybe it might be.
Maybe.
Yeah, it might be.
So that's what's going through our heads. Let us know what you guys think, cause yeah, I don't know.
There's so many different perspectives.
We love some conversation, some discussion on it. So please drop a comment, drop a like. You know, you can always subscribe. You can follow us on Instagram at kickphase.studios. And thanks for tuning in to another episode of Kickphase, the podcast where you view life through the lens of two filmmakers. I'm Kemp.
I'm Matt.
Thank you for rocking with us, because we rock with you, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Love y'all.
You see me I was trying to end that so cool. He gonna be like, love y'all.
Yeah, because I do. Why can't I love him? I love the support.
Be like, all right, homies.
No, that's not me.
Peace.
Because we just talked
Deuces.
about.
We'll see y'all.
We just talked about the
Alright.
individual perspective of blackness. That's not me, Kemp.
Deuces. Catch y'all on the next episode. Catch y'all on the flip side.
That's
See ya.
it.
Alright, it's been good. Thanks for chilling. Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
We'll see y'all later.
We out.